meetings, and we'll start with the rural law enforcement district. And you said it was on page 452, not 454.
Well, the service district start.
Okay, meeting laws on 452. And we'll go ahead and call for nominations for the chair.
I nominate Matt Farley.
Second.
Moving second to nominate Matt Farley for rural law enforcement district chair. All those in favor signify with an aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
You don't get to say no.
And next was the nominations for vice chair.
Well, I'll nominate Robert Stevens.
Second.
Okay, moving second to nominate Robert Stevens for vice chair. All those in favor signify with an aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Chair Matt. And also, maybe you want to introduce everybody. I didn't do that at the beginning, so.
I guess each of us will go around and introduce. So I'm Matt Burley.
John Reichel.
Robert Stevens.
Mike.
Amy Lenz.
Monica Steele, assistant county manager.
Matt Phillips, sheriff.
We all speak. Sure.
Okay, does any committee member have a conflict of interest to report?
I have a possible conflict of interest that I've mentioned before. I do some electronic equipment repair and some services for the county sheriff's office, but I do not allow that to conflict with my duties as a person on this board.
Okay, are there any further members that have to declare a conflict of interest?
Not here.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the 2022 meeting minutes?
I'll make that.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, any opposed? All right, is there any public comment? All right, no public comment. Going to review the proposed budget by activity.
Yeah, sure. This is a status quo budget. We're not adding any new fixing along in terms of FTE. And there's some modest increases due to step increases, COLAs, insurance. But other than that, it is very status quo budget for last year.
I will just follow up with the rural law district as well, aware that this is supports the work that's done in the enforcement division as well as control of the sheriff's admin. And so anytime there was increase in the cost of services in those divisions, then it causes an increase. Any questions for staff?
So, you know, if you don't want to. I'm curious about the workload measures. People have shared with me the level of concern they have about the nature of, I would say, life in rural Clatsop County. And I don't know how we wrap ourselves around an adequate presentation of the challenges that law enforcement is facing, but I'm eager to have it at least raised into our awareness and asked about.
So we did add work plans from departments and the sheriff's in the appendix section of the budget. And the sheriff's work plan begins on page 533. And I don't know if he wants to speak to it in regards to the plan as well as the budget.
Okay, Commissioner, specifically to your question, one of the things that we have as a goal this year is search a new records management system that would also potentially integrate with the dispatch consolidation discussion we're having. One of the things that we have a challenge with regards to workload is having a system that we can easily extract data from that is meaningful. Our current system is very dated. It's had basically no updates to it, and we have difficulty pulling reports from. So that would be something that would be future capital expense next year. And we look forward
Any
to quantify,
bigger than a bread box, smaller than a mountaintop?
the cost.
We have in the projected, it's in the capital projects budget, for future years, $125,000 for the records management system.
Will that incorporate EMS and fire as well as law enforcement?
If it was adopted, that system was adopted into a dispatch consolidation, and I was selected as the CAD.
So that means ambulance too, right?
Well, that's still under discussion. I don't know how that's gonna work out yet.
And I,
Yes, go ahead.
you and I have had discussions about, data relating to farm statistics. Do you think that with a new information system that would enhance that issue? Do you think where are we in the process? Are we in process? of
We are,
getting those numbers?
well, we're in process of researching a new records management system. A team from each of the local law enforcement agencies has been to see either 4 or 5 different vendors now, Paul, to see presentations. And I think the hope is, for example, when we were working on the transient lodging tax project, and we were looking for how many people are arrested that are out of the county, traffic stops, crashes, all that kind of stuff. We had to contact a vendor of a current system to write a report. So there's a lot of steps, and it makes it hard to pull this data.
I think that we can look for.
We're-
Because I think it's very difficult as policymakers for us to be dealing with a community where we don't know what the benefit is. We don't know where it is. We don't know the whole access of that. I hope that's something that we can put in the capital budget priority.
It's that $125,000
That's not a lot.
next
That's really not.
Yeah.
year. That's
Well, the goal is that all the local enforcement agencies get about this. So other agencies are getting similar, to buy systems. So
That's something I think that the county needs to be. So real.
yeah. Well, we posted each of the presentations, so.
Like the goal settings that you guys have for 23-24, is there any place within that you're gonna be discussing potential automation and reduction of costs? Well, just trying to streamline the process so that we can reduce costs with our forecasted.
Well, that's kind of hard to do because the people make up over 70% of the budget.
Yeah.
I was gonna save this for the next piece of
Sorry.
the budget. But you'll see that this year, the enforcement division budget only grew by 2%. The corrections division, again, these are the 2 biggest divisions in the sheriff's office, only grew by 3%. And so that's a combination of, just being really mindful about where our expenses are. And then just going over things with a fine tooth comb. And under sheriff has certainly helped with that. Monica, she's been a good partner in this. Her fine tooth comb makes a flea comb look like a rake. So she can really.
So you're doing, you're picking myths out.
And so we're being as efficient as possible, and I think that history has shown that the sheriff's office does not expend all of the appropriated budget. This will put for a long time. This year we spent some time to quantify that, see what that average over the last 10 years, so that helps us better understand. Okay.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All right, I'd like to move to approve the budget with a tax rate of 0.7195 per $1,000.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed?
So if you could just make sure Teresa to sign.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your time and your skills and all of it.
And good to see you. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Next, so
So next is road district number 1. Page 449, road district number 1.
You have to give us,
Gotta give us the names.
gotta give us. Yeah, because this is very.
Someone goes down. Yeah. Everybody? Yeah, it's like a mouse. Yeah, so. Good to see you too, buddy. All right, we'll go ahead and call the order. There's a committee meeting on road district number 1.
and you are the.
We are the road district.
But
And
easy.
we don't have involved. That's what it is, yeah. So we call for a nomination for the chair.
Nominate Mark.
Okay,
You want a second?
sure.
Certainly happy to second that motion.
Moving second to approve, Commissioner Quila as chair. All those in favor signify with an eye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Nominations for vice chair. I nominate Commissioner Bangs.
Second,
Moving seconded to nominate Commissioner, or to approve Commissioner Bangs as vice chair of road district number 1. All those in favor signify with an eye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Does any committee member have a conflict of interest to report? Is there a motion to approve the 2022 meeting minutes?
I move to approve.
second,
Moved and seconded to approve the 2022 road district budget meeting minutes. All those in favor signify with an eye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Is there any public comment? So we'll go ahead and review the proposed budget by activity. County staff, we have our county engineer, Dean Kiernan. Are you going to do that?
So Terry.
Terry, you can do that?
Yeah, I was hoping Dean was gonna.
too bad.
The budget is status quo budget, reflects the revenue received through property tax levy and timber. Which are paid into the county for maintenance construction used as discussed in road maintenance construction. To 3120 section of the county budget. The slight increase in this budget is reflective of the increase in that balance to be paid. To construction.
Okay.
It's all just a transfer based on those property taxes and timber.
Good job. Any questions, comments? Commissioner Webb.
Did the extraordinary weather this year? And I don't even know scientifically whether it felt like it's me and to my dog, but other than that, no, did that cause any unusual havoc on the system?
We would work. We, other places around the county saw some extreme events, but the road part.
And, okay, good, thank you. I was assuming that maybe they had action.
Nothing out of it. Go.
Good, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Commissioner Banks.
It's not really budgetary related, but we don't get to see you guys very often, so I was just wondering if you had like a 5-year projection of road maintenance that you would be able to provide to us.
Sure, you have a 5-year.
Yeah.
Good,
But I appreciate it. I got a random email from a high school student who was like, I don't know the answer. So,
we find a intersection.
no, that was in regards to Brown's Mead. But you gotta,
We heard from them about that section.
oh, recently,
Yeah, we're looking perhaps folding them into our code.
I really think that that's a good choice.
And
Talk later.
And I will just add, as we mentioned with the sheriffs, so in the appendix section is where we've added the work plans. The public works is not in there because we've been getting these from departments, because it is a lot of work to put these together. So it will be included in the adopted budget, but they did a really good job of providing the public works work plan as well. So we'll get those out to you as well.
Any other comments, questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, a motion to approve the budget with a tax rate of 1.0175 per thousand for road district number 1. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Dean. Good job.
Thank you.
Oh, you're staying.
That was fun.
Oh, you're leaving and you have what's for Terry.
Oh, wait, enough.
Terry's got to come back too.
Is one.
Do we have people joining us on?
Yes.
Okay, Teresa, are you able to tell me if there's a Wanda Harris on? No. Okay, just a reminder too, that when we're talking, please talk to the owl. Loud, yes.
It's now.
It is called owl.
Is it? Well, there we go.
Yes.
All right,
Okay, so the Westport Sewer Service District on page 451. Now it's time to nominations of the chair.
Same thing where the district,
Okay. One second to approve Commissioner Queel as chair. All those in favor signify with an aye. All those opposed. Call for nominations of vice chair. Second, move to approve Commissioner Bangs as vice chair. All those in favor signify with an aye. Those opposed. Okay, does any committee member have a conflict of interest to report? Is there any motion? Is there a motion to approve the 2022 meeting minutes?
I move to approve. Second.
Move to second to approve the 2022 meeting minutes. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Any public comment? Okay, we'll review the proposed budget by activity. Turn over to our Public Works Director, Terry Hendricks.
Westport Service, the increase is approximately $141,000, 38% expenditures due to an increase in contractual services, anticipation of upgrading the treatment plant and budgeting contingency. Ongoing improvement to ARPA and Westport Community Funds are aligned to the necessary improvement to the aging infrastructure to remain compliant with DEP tests. There is also an increase in contingency to utilize for ongoing facility under as required.
I was just gonna add to that. Essentially, we're still working on the facilities plan, so it's not complete yet, but this is kind of with what we're going through is what we're anticipating, so.
Any questions? Commissioner Webb.
Did the opening of the football, are their facilities hooked into the Westport sewer?
Yes.
And so did that provide a lot of stress? I mean, is that increased agreement?
No, it's because there's 91, basically 91 tanks. That's one, so it's 92.
Oh,
And they're the same, so they have a septic tank that goes into the net. It pumps up to
this,
so that's part of the budget in this as well, is because these are essentially septic systems, they have to get them pumped regularly, so.
yeah, we've been playing catch up with the systems because they have been maintained. So I think last year we pumped 21. I think we'll probably try to do the same this year, and that should catch us up to where we're not backed up. Because it's not a good system.
Commissioner Banks?
Well, two questions. You brought up something in my mind. Is there a user fee to use that park?
There will be.
There will be, okay, to help offset costs of maintenance.
That's correct, right, Steve?
We haven't done it yet. We're just kind of weighing out the cost of the machine and how many people are actually using the park. We'd actually almost lose the charging fee, what it costs to run the view machine and everything, so it's a balance act.
Yeah.
For what we're getting from the state, we get money from the state, sports, we lose that. But
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And that's now they're basically at a residential rate. So it's not getting so much use that they're bumping up.
Okay. Okay. And then my second comment or question is the system near the water system underneath that main thoroughway that goes, so the water line, I can't remember. The outflow, is that underneath that road also?
Yeah.
Right. The small beach, and it's,
Okay,
and planned to be relocated sometime in the future, probably for the next 3 years.
are those lines holding up? Or?
As far as we know, they're, the outflow is still flowing.
Well, editorial comment. Happy to see Westport getting what it needs. Happy to have District 4 enjoy the benefits of the county.
Yeah.
And I should add in that we've just recently added additional UV units to kind of test them out.
Okay.
And so we're just like supplementing because we're having trouble keeping up, and it seems to be working as good as we thought, but I'm glad we're testing them. So then if we do replace it with these certain units, we now know we need double than what we're. Yeah.
If we do continue pursuing the biodigester, would it help offset costs for situations like this in Westport? Or is that too far to travel?
No, what would happen is it would probably be cost neutral because we use a local hauler to come and put the septic trucks. And so I don't know for them to go to Plaskani, Rainier versus where it would be.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So we need a motion to approve the budget, and this would be both for the Westport Sewer Service District and the Westport Sewer Equipment Replacement.
I move to approve it.
And I'll second.
Moving second to approve the budget, all those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Great job. Thank you, Terry. Next is the 4-H and Extension Service District on page 457.
I'm sorry, what is that?
457.
457.
Thank you. Well, yes, it's very clear.
It's in order.
You can pull an extra chair.
Yes, that's amazing. Yeah, let's read everything. Chairman, please. Cheers here.
And I don't know that we have four on the,
It seems funny, we're sitting in chairs and on hay bales, right?
Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And do we have introductions? You guys want to go around and introduce yourselves?
I'm Tammy Wolf, the OSU Extension County Office Manager.
Riley Thompson, and the Regional Director for Extension on the Coast.
I'm Amanda Gladys, I do Fisheries Extension.
Ed Johnson, Budget Committee.
Yeah, welcome, everybody. And now we'll do nominations for the chair.
I think it's online.
Oh, do we have people online?
Hi, Tom Hank.
Patrick Duacek.
And Kurt England.
Welcome, Tom, Patrick, and Kurt. Thanks for joining us. And we'll go ahead and call for nominations for the chair. Who would like to
I
chair?
nominate Ed.
Okay.
A second. Am I allowed to second?
All right, moved and seconded to nominate Ed Johnson as chair of the 4-H and Extension Service District. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now we'll call for nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Kurt. Next year, you're gonna get it for the chair.
Move seconded to nominate Kurt England as vice chair of 4-H Extension Service District Budget Committee. All those in favor signify with an eye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. So chair here is,
Okay,
you got it? Okay.
does any committee member have a conflict of interest to report?
I am a volunteer 4-H leader, but I do not receive any compensation for that.
I was gonna say.
It's the definition of volunteer.
Yeah, well, there's reimbursements that are available, but I don't take those.
Is there a motion to approve the 2022 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes. Okay, is there any public comment? Well, every year I say to my daughter Emily, who now lives in Bend, learned a lot through the 4-H program that really helped her in life, that helped her to be a great public speaker, and that she, thank you for it.
Agreed.
Okay, review the proposed budget by activity.
So, as we've discussed before, the county contracts with Oregon State University to provide these 4-H mixed services. And so everything in our budget document shows up as a contractual service for that. Tammy does provide, the budget committee, which we sent out to everybody, a breakdown spreadsheet. of these contractual services are spent through personnel and for the program costs as well. The 4-H extension budget is pretty much a status quo budget. They're seeing an increase in total expenditures, but this is a result of increased contingencies by $35,000. They had a lot of retirements this year, and so having those more tenured positions retire, having newer people come in has realized personnel cost savings. And so they have been very fiscally prudent in regards to trying to do a number of things, one of which, and I don't think quite wants to speak to it, is ongoing conversations regarding their lease agreement and changes that can be made to that, because it essentially they're paying a lot of for the space that they. And I defer to Tammy and Andy.
So the lease is under conversations right now.
I just mean in general on it, not just the lease.
We did have a meeting today
Yeah.
where the director of extension, through our CFO, Tiffany Gillis, who runs our finances, for extension across the state. We have come up with a set of course of action that our director is going to present to the Dean of Ag, who has oversight that, I don't know if everybody knows, but the seafood lab falls under the Ag experiment stations. And across the state, we have a number of extension activities and personnel who co-occupy space. And the history is each experiment station director has been allowed to come up with some sort of rent or lease or rent agreement to charge local people. And there needs to be some sort of leveling and some sort of agreement at the higher level so that the Tammys and Wileys are not negotiating with that director, because as personalities change and quite frankly, folks need money to run their operations, there may be a will to change that agreement. My view is we're stronger as a herd than individuals. And so we've asked the director to come up with some course of action and present that to the Dean of Ag. I believe he will do that. How do we say, forthwith? Yes, ma'am.
Do you need a letter from the board to support your endeavor with the Dean of Ag?
Let's let the director fail,
Okay,
and then we'll.
okay.
I know you all have been so supportive, and he knows that you all are
Aware.
aware of the situation that we have. I am confident we will realize some savings right now from what we are paying. I just don't know what that will be. I hope it's somewhere. I don't want to say a number, what I hope it is, but it's south of what we're doing now. It needs to. Our best investment is program. activities and employing local people to deliver OSU extension services in this community every day. And then save a little.
Commissioner Schnell.
Thank you, sir. So I'm assuming that we're headed all in the same direction. We're delighted if you can have that, I would say, action toward fairness, which is how we see it, because we're gonna come out with more money. So of course it must be a fair thing. Thank you. Do you have any specific idea to what and any savings might be directed? Do you have a kind of a list of unfunded things you'd like to do for us? And if you don't, that's fine, but if you did, I'm curious.
So when, what we've done in places where we aren't squeezed, and first of all, it'll keep Tammy's health better, right? We want to keep Tammy around. She's doing a great job, but it's opportunities to invest back in programs for 4-H and, to support new club opportunities, more innovative clubs. It's opportunities for when Amanda has, I call it like program innovation. When a community member, a stakeholder, a commissioner, someone sees something that extension can be doing in the area, we have some initial capital come in, and maybe we don't pay all of it, but we put up some, we find a partner to cost share with us so that we can do something innovative in the community. It's paying, like, Amanda or one of our folks, we want to send them to a conference to bring back new ideas, new programming to the community. We can support some of that travel, and the program leaders often pay for some of that, so that we're just, we are going to keep sweating. Our end goal is to just keep pushing off that going underwater line in our budget, like everyone here is thinking about, until like we're all in the grave and it's someone else's, right? We actually want it to be sustainable, but we just want to keep pushing that date way off so that we have some cushion and we can deliver the programming we need and this community needs without everybody sweating it every minute of the day.
Perfect answer. I just want to take the opportunity to thank you, to thank Amanda. Any way we can support you and enrich you, we're happy to do that because you produce, we trust you, and we appreciate you.
I would just comment that I really appreciate Wiley's efforts on this. I've been chomping on him and just dying to stick the politicians on. He keeps holding me back.
Sadly, he's already been, I took a bite out. I'm sorry, Wiley.
It's okay.
Well, he keeps holding me back, and I think his approach is working.
Yeah.
One more scar is not going to hurt his ugly face. We're good.
I think my response was.
Yeah, we have any other questions? Yeah.
Can you tell us exactly what your staff looks like now? We were real excited when we got the small farms person.
Absolutely, we could do a rundown of that, and so the small farms person, and just some history of that, and I don't want to delay this because I know we have other people in line. That came at a big cost, and that's where you see increase in our expenses and a dip in our savings. That was an agreement made between some leadership on the ground and some folks in Tillamook to bring in a small farms person at the cost of county funds. Faculty like Amanda should be paid for by state funds. And I know the community appreciates that service, but that should be paid in the right way. Personally, I would push that to the right until the state will pay for it. We have Chip Bubel, who everybody knows Chip. He'll come in and he'll meet our small farms need. Just because someone's not sitting in the office doesn't mean you're not going to have those needs met, though I understand the comfort level and the responsiveness is much better. I am working with Sam Angima, the ag program leader, based on this legislative session to try to get small farms coverage up here on the coast. Our small farms, our microeconomies are critical and serving our communities. We absolutely understand that. So we have Amanda, we have who does our fisheries and our Sea Grant extension. We have Aaron Groth, who has a significant footprint up here on our fire team. Dan Stark, our organ extension forester. We have our 4-H team of Sandra and Julie, and everybody's probably familiar with their great work. Of course, Tammy. We have Llewellyn and Lori up in the front office. They're the face of extension. When you do walk in, we are currently and searched for, and they're doing interviews this week, and we're doing some today for a family community health / SNAP Ed program coordinator. So that'll be a state-funded faculty member to come in to this space. And Kayla Warner, who used to be
I was gonna say.
Kayla, she got her master's in public health, and as soon as she started that program, I knew she was about to outgrow us. And then she's went on, I think she's working for Oregon OHSU, still in the area.
So,
So we are replacing her with another state-funded faculty.
oh, wow.
That will not impact the budget other than like travel
Okay.
and
And
materials.
we are assuming that she, or whoever takes the job will be very closely connected with our public health department.
That's the intent. Partnerships are key and building trust with those are.
Is there ever going to be a replacement for Pat Ford?
We do have coverage. So we have this person who provides Felicia Omedashul. She is a coastal hazard, like Erin, she's a regional specialist. So she covers the entire coast. And she has been up here, she's done some. events here. And she's based out of Newport because she has to cover from the California all the way up to here. So she uses up a lot of tires and gas and everything.
I'll just add, she's got some really great projects. Spanish language and information and resources. She's doing a lot.
Right.
And Chip from Columbia County does, he helps out the Blackberry Bog Farm, we basically, an after school district, we had drainage problems, our baseball field, he came up and solved that for us, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we can
It would be so great to have somebody full time.
I agree. If we had the budget, we'd have a small farm person in every county.
I mean, that's a very important growing part of our economy.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Just a point of clarification, so the budget that we're approving is for basically your office. And then besides that, the 6 FTEs are paid for through Oregon State. So folks like Aaron and Dan and so on and so forth are paid through by Oregon State, correct?
That is state funding. So our that extension office and what you see happening there is a blend of federal, state, county, and then grant funds.
Okay, I just wanted to make a point, like, make sure I was on tracking that, that, because we have a lot of folks that come visit and help us out, like, you know, Aaron and so on and so forth, and I was like, that's not enough money to pay for these.
No.
And to clarify, our office manager and our office support staff.
And
Yeah.
Julie, the
Yeah.
program assistants.
Yeah, because I was just trying to track the FTE on this page with the FTE that was not here being funded.
So what we do in a case like when Chip comes over to visit Mr. Peachy, we would just pay for his mileage
Okay,
to come over as opposed to, you know, housing a person.
which I fiscally responsibility is like thumbs up, that's great, so, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, are we running any kind of a master gardener program now? Who's doing that?
We have a 0.49 FTE master gardener. Limited duration employee who is working with the training class. So he got the training to the classes last winter and had 30 students. And he has a high success rate. And so he works on time, budget, and he's doing a really good job. Next year, we're kind of just keeping the same model as this year for next year. And he's really starting to go.
Great.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we need a motion to approve the budget with a tax rate of 0.0534 dollars per dollar.
I'd make
So,
that-
okay, sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to make that motion.
Well, thank you.
Second.
Your second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Okay, hearing none opposed, it's adopted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you and appreciate your questions.
I have an organization chart I can give you a little show. Yeah.
And.
So we are. Schedule, so we're not gonna get. Till 5 o'clock. Thank you to everybody that's joined us.
And
Good luck to you.
I hope that
It sure does.
Okay. We ready to go, everybody?
Let's do this.
All right, go ahead and call this countywide budget meeting to order. We have Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Bangs, Commissioner Webb, and myself in the room, and I know Commissioner Toyoka is joining us virtually. And from the Budget Committee, we have David Ozer, who's here with us, and then I see Norman Brown and Gretchen Allen joining us virtually. And if you could keep your video on, that would be fantastic. First item is to nominate the chair of the committee. I nominate David Ozer.
I second.
Moved and seconded to nominate David Ozer to chair the budget committee. All those in favor signify with an eye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is the nominations of vice chair.
I see Norman up there.
Anybody else is in there?
I can't tell who that's.
Norman?
I nominate Norman since I see.
Yep.
He's up there.
And I second. Moved and seconded to nominate Norman Brown for vice chair of the budget committee. All those in favor signify with an eye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, I'll turn it over to our chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we'll begin. Does any committee member have a conflict of interest to report? I want to report that I am a board member of Classic Behavioral Healthcare, which is the recipient of a pass-through grant, but board members do not receive any financial remuneration for their service, so I don't believe the conflict. Anyone else online? Okay. So the next item of business is to approve the 2022 meeting minutes. We have a motion to approve the 2022 countywide budget meeting minutes. Mr. Thompson moves.
Commissioner Thompson. Second.
And second, Commissioner Bangs. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is public comment. Is, and we have a large group of public here, citizens here. Are there any comments to start us off with from public?
Is there anyone here who would like to make public comment?
Anyone online?
You can go ahead and come on up here. And just to remind everyone, the committee members as well, if you could please speak to the owl. I really need to make sure those who are participating virtually can hear us. And so if you just want to state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Nancy Cook. I have properties in Astoria, but 640 Harrison Avenue is where I live. I've lived here in Clatsop County for going on 19 years now and been a property taxpayer since 2007. And I want to thank this body and congratulate you on the works you've won for this budget and the transparency of the budget and for all your work as commissioners. I want to speak today because in reading the budget document, I'm a little concerned about the framing of the habitat conservation plan and potential impacts of the budget, not just in this short-term transition, but over the life of a 70-year plan. I'm a fisher poet, maybe you're thinking quite a bigger for faith, but I very engaged with a lot of fishing families here, and I believe that the conservation plan, its balanced management approach, serves the future of our community in a lot of ways. Indeed, ODF's own goals for the plan is to stabilize revenue. So I'm a little bit concerned that the budget document and also what I've been reading in the paper coming from Clatsop County proposes this sort of foregone conclusion that this is going to be a bad thing for our county. I also have specific concerns. I mean, I'm the nerd who's been tuning into the YouTube channel, watching all of these Board of Forestry meetings. So I think it's really important that we recognize that it feels like there's a little bit of a civil war going on within ODF right now. EIS predictions show stabilized revenue, often higher for jobs for rural communities, and we need to recognize that. I think what's going on right now is these implementation plans are coming out. They're not solidified, it's projected. Cal, the forester, I'm not gonna say his last name because I'm sure, but state forester Cal has promised that if there's some shortfalls in this transition period, that he will make it up to our counties. The part of the budget that really has compelled me is the notion, I think it was a very wise choice to, what do we say? We keep the lowest of 15 years revenues, which I believe was 2.18 million in 2010, which means since 2010, the county has retained a little over 25 million excess timber revenues for what is called the general fund stabilization. I guess I just want to propose that, first of all, it makes me really uncomfortable given how politicized timber revenues are in this county. Makes me very uncomfortable to see special projects anywhere near timber revenues. So I'm not exactly sure what those special projects are, but I think it would make a lot of sense for excess timber revenues to go into a timber revenue stabilization fund quite clearly. And I also think as we go into the future with a budget reserve of, what's our budget reserve? I'm sure you know.
We have a board policy to keep it at 20.
And right now it is that.
6%. We should end the fiscal year.
Okay, so as a person who has values and expects my county to represent my values, I think a 40% budget reserve is more than they need. 30 would be awesome, but I just want to warn us to watch this carefully. It's a politicized issue. I know your family's been impacted by fisheries, Mark. Fisheries support our economy. In fact, 2019, $1.4 billion were spent in the North Coast outdoor recreation and tourism industry. And I've been talking about this issue with a lot of my neighbors. I've yet to find anybody in the Astoria city body who doesn't believe that our forests should have a balanced management approach. So that's all I want to say. Thank you for listening and thank you for our service to this county.
Thank you.
And I apologize, I'm not sure what, but somehow somebody wrote it. Somebody wrote it there. I don't know how, but I'm not gonna. It's not in the document.
Oh, interesting. Is there any other comment? No one? Going on? Okay. So the next, and this is a motion to approve the budget with a tax rate.
Oh,
That's not yet. That's the end.
We go to the agenda now.
We go to the agenda.
Page 40.
Oh, okay, we are, yes, thank you. We are going to begin by reviewing the proposed budget by activity. And first activity that we are going to review is the district attorney's budgets. And those begin on page 140 for those who have their books or their electronic versions. So District Attorney Brown, are you going to lead this discussion?
So the DA will kick things off in regards to his overall budgets that he has. Sure.
Hi, I'm the district attorney. This is my 5th year. I've been in Classic County for 19 and a half years. I've been an attorney for 43 years and a prosecutor for about 35 years. And we're proud to present this budget here today. And we think it's pretty much a status quo budget because we're not asking for any new employees. We added one deputy DA last year based on the increase in county population over the past 10 years. So there's just the cost of living stuff, et cetera, but it's basically a status quo budget.
Can I ask you, District Attorney Brown, in your statement on budget highlights, you say, so we expect a deluge of requests for new trials in all non-murder cases. Do you think you have enough staff and to handle that with you?
Well, that's a good question, sir, because I was talking to the Deschutes County District Attorney, and he's got 6 different attorneys assigned to his, we call them Ramos cases, because that's the name of the case before the US Supreme Court. So at this point in time, I think we're okay. We've only got 3 so far back, but it's just a question of timing, I would think. It's really increased since 2020 when the US Supreme Court ruling came down, and the Oregon Supreme Court makes it retroactive, just came down last year. So I think it'll increase, get more steam as it goes. But for now, I think.
Good. Okay. Are there any comments on the district attorney? Other comments, questions on the district attorney budget 2160. Mr. Bay.
So I just see a reduction proposed for VOCA, and I know that I think VOCA is an amazing program, so I'm just making sure that it's not a reduction in services. What is that?
No, it's not a reduction in services. And I don't think they let us know until September what our actual going to be. There are different fiscal year that we are. It should be coming in at about the same.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Mossman decision that addresses a defendant's mental capacity to be able to aid and assist in their own defense. It's big news. Every month at AOC, we talk about the impact of the judge's ruling that says, counties, you have to be ready to deal with mentally ill people. Does that impact your office? I mean, that's really a 25-cent version of the thing. If you want to clarify and correct what I've said, please do. But will that Mossman decision, do you think going forward, more immediately impact your office?
It definitely, because most of those cases just end up going on full status until the person, you have to be able to aid and assist in your own defense for your case to go forward. It's trial, plea, or whatever. And right now, Judge Mossman is a federal judge. He ruled that the caps that the state hospital put on the state hospital are what they're intended to be. And basically all the deadlines for evaluating those people that are there on aid and assist from Clatsop County and others are getting completely ignored because they don't have the staff and the staff and personnel there to look at all these different people, see if they're able to aid and assist, or whether they've got drug problems, some other problem that is the predominant source of their mental illness. So it's continuing to be a problem. And if we don't get any treatment to the people in the interim, then those cases get dismissed because that's about the only other option. Then we get to deal with disgruntled victims. Never had a day in court because the defendant didn't have a day in court, didn't have much of a day in court because he's not fit to proceed. So it completely stops the prosecution of any criminal case while a person is not able to aid and assist. The police chief in Rainier was murdered several years ago, and that case got put for the better part of 10 years, I think, because the guy was able to aid and assist, and that's he got convicted. So it's basically put all those cases on hold because the state hospital is only able to evaluate a very small percentage of the people that need it. And so we need to get some other local option, and that's what we got.
So there's diagnosis and treatment, and then legal reconciliation.
Right.
And the victim's satisfaction and the community sense of justice and well-being. It sounds like it's in a meat right now.
It is. Oh.
Well, so Mr. Chair, I don't know if it's your pleasure. I'd like for us to keep a note, a basket of policy issues that may impact our budget. And I'd like to make that Mossman case right the first entry on that list because it impacts prosecution and law enforcement and community mental health.
So.
It's a statewide issue. We are being called on to respond with our colleagues, but it's our community awareness of what we're dealing with that I'm trying to highlight here. So thank you, Mr. Dean.
I think it's crisis right now.
Swell.
Just one other question. Did you lose a staff assistant or did they just change into a different?
So I will clarify throughout the budget, there was a restructuring of job titles. So yeah, staff assistant is no longer used and there's a variety of titles that has been changed.
So they didn't disappear?
No.
Okay.
No.
So, for my edification, we approve these one by one as we go.
No, we just go
We just
through
We just go.
and then we're gonna go to the next.
Okay. We can, unless there are other questions on the district attorney's budget, we can go to the next one, 2165, which is, starts on page 146.
So I think that we're just kind of, if you have questions of the DA and his budget, we're just kind of encompassing it all at once and we'll do the same thing with the sheriff and then Dawn and I'll cover to the public safety and justice.
Okay. So therefore, I should assume that there are no questions on this, the child support budget. Okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure.
We now move to the sheriff's office. And that set of budgets begins page 150.
All right, good evening, Sheriff, Wizard, well, budget committee, thanks for having me. Just want to start off by saying, the of being sheriff weren't necessarily easy. We were faced with COVID 3 months into my term, and then we had West and police reform, and that was a difficult time for all the staff. But I'm really proud of my staff. They have accomplished a lot. We developed a strategic plan, which is posted online on the county website, and we accomplished just about every one of the goals. And that's really with the support of the county commissioners and this budget, we've been able to accomplish so much. The addendum has a list of this year's goals, but specific to this budget, and there's 9 of them. Sorry about that. 6 divisions, 9 budgets. It's very status quo. I spoke earlier during the law enforcement district meeting about how we really went through this budget with a fine-tooth comb. Enforcement only saw a 2% growth. I think the personnel services only increased by $78,000. Materials and services was about $34,000. Corrections, our biggest budget only grew by 3%. So we've been very careful with this budget. Some of our goals for the enforcement division this year is to select a new records management system that we would hopefully purchase next fiscal year. We'd like to develop a problem-oriented policing program. And that's different than hotspots policing. This is looking at trends and then trying to address the issue holistically, not just through enforcement. Buying body cameras for the enforcement division. Our current body cameras are well past end of life. Body cameras is something that Clatsop County has been doing since 2012. So I don't think we were just early adopters. We were on the bleeding edge at that time. And then we're working on increasing our search and rescue membership and participation. In the corrections division, we're looking to contract for a half FTE dual diagnosis clinician. So to take, to provide services to the adults in custody. Our new NCIC phone system at the jail also has tablets that are issued to each person in custody. And we're going to implement a education platform on that has a variety of services from anger management to substance abuse, and time spent on those programs can be credited towards like recreation, so listening to music or maybe access to some emails and things like that. We're going to implement a pre-booking system for the other user agencies. There's 6 other law enforcement agencies that bring people to the jail, and Commissioner, your point about automation, this is one of those little things where arresting officers can pre-fill out booking information to speed up the flow at the jail, so it's beneficial both to the correction staff and to the arresting officers. And we're looking to reduce our outstanding warrants by 15%. Outstanding warrants ballooned, like doubled during COVID. In community corrections, we're looking to increase outreach to victims within 30 days of admitting someone new to supervision. So we're going to be providing them the PO's information and post-conviction victims' rights info. We're going to be completing level of service case management, inventory, and the WRNA, which is the Women's Risk and Needs Assessment on all high and medium risk clients within 60 days of admission. And we're going to try to develop specific behavior change plans for all high and medium risk justice involved individuals. Animal control, we're going to review and update our policy and procedure manual. We're going to hire and train 2 new kennel workers for the 2 that are retiring. We have already started increasing our contracts with local veterinarians. And then we're starting a new program to improve canine adoption. Sometimes we get dogs that just aren't well socially adjusted and are hard to adopt. And our new supervisor has identified some programs to do training in-house, make the dogs more valuable. Support division, if required, we will implement the Measure 114 permit to purchase program. And the support division is also key to the research and recommendation for replacing the records management and computer aided dispatch I talked about earlier. And then finally, the medical examiner, we're going to implement part-time MDIs to help with the coverage on the chief medical legal death investigators, days off, and vacations. Currently, that's being filled only by on-duty law enforcement officers, and part of the overtime issue is we have to keep them on call on their days off. Also, Liz is not on duty, and just so you know, Liz, she gets paid for a 40-hour week, but the 5 days she's on, it's 100% of those hours. Our CSI camp last year was very successful, and we're going to host that again this year. And then I should have done this earlier. This sounds bad, but we're looking to establish a county-owned body storage.
I'm sorry. Just say that one more time slowly.
Yes, we need a cooler for certain cases to improve, chain of custody issues and such things.
Okay, then. Larger jurisdictions have such.
Yes, yeah. So that's it in a nutshell.
Good. What I just, in the preliminary remarks, there are 9 budgets here. I mentioned people have made notes. So I want to give plenty of time, enough time for people to sort of go through these pages and check all the things that they want to ask about. And I also would request anybody online on the committee, do not be shy. Speak up. It's hard to see who's out there from this distance. And so if you have something to say, say it. So, yes.
Wes, is it possible, since most of the budget committee has the documentation, can we bring the faces to the forefront?
Yeah, that's fine, because that way that scribble is not bothering me.
Well, I can't see anybody, and so it's a little.
That's the document, and so we can.
Perfect.
Good.
There's the people.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Yes. Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, sir. Sheriff, I've been hearing that the state medical examiner's office has some, I just call them big problems. Will those programs slop over onto us, or is our program so internally self-sufficient and complete that we don't have to worry about what happens at the state medical examiner's office?
Well, it's a little bit, of both. We have a very strong program. We absolutely won the lottery. I Liz DeVisser to be our chief medical legal death investigator. As it was, she was already instructors for the medical examiner's office, teaching statewide. She has very strong relationships with them. I mean, she's really half part of their group too. So we're very lucky there. Where we see delays is when we need autopsies and they're backed up. And then a big thing is toxicological screening. That's getting really backed up. So she is still not able to prepare her 22-23, no, actually, the fiscal year 22 death report, because there's so many cases pending toxicology. So
I'd like to,
there's a lot of cases where we think it might be overdose. That's a presumption, but we don't know until we get the toxicology back.
so I'd like that to be number 2 on our list of larger issues that we want to look at afterward, because that will impact us in our performance and our accountability to the public. Okay, thank you.
Can you state exactly what it is, Commissioner Thompson, if you want to see?
The toxic.
The toxicology, well, I think it's just overall support for the medical examiner's unit. They are the lowest paid pathologists in the nation. Yeah, so it's very hard to recruit a pathologist, and that's what you need to be a medical examiner.
So in other
that's
words,
the best-
The lowest paid.
The lowest in the nation.
That's
And in fact, so pathology is, I believe it's extra 4 years on top of being MD. And so you do extra education and get paid lower than any doctor hospital.
and the workload
And the workload, yeah, that's
is,
insane.
which is. Yeah,
We can't
so
say at time.
we're just part of the state system, and I want to keep us tuned into the impact on local services, problems at the state.
And if I could touch on the Mossman decision, what often happens is people go to the state hospital for restoration, and when either they decide that that person no longer needs a hospital level of care, or they time out, they return to the county to receive restoration. But first they have to come to the jail, and then every week there's a hearing to determine whether they can safely release that person and or treatment. And so that is a burden for the jail, and it's extra court time. This soaks up bandwidth.
So there's Mossman 1A and 1B. The and okay, and the community mental health system.
Yes.
Thank you.
With the potential of 114 being enacted, will that increase staffing hours for you guys?
Yeah, so we would have to add a full FTE in order to process that.
That's what I thought, because the paperwork alone.
Yes.
And that's not in the budget at this time.
No, that is not currently in the budget.
I'll just say that it was requested, but we asked at this point in time to postpone it. So that way, should it get passed, there is contingency available and we could utilize the contingency.
So we do have a plan in place just in case.
We have a plan in place, and I would like to compliment Lisa Minor, who is our support division supervisor. She was one of the people statewide picked from handpicked from the Sheriff's Association to lead the work group. And so she was a key player on that. So kudos to her reputation and history.
Good.
Sheriff Phillips, could you refresh my memory on page 152? We've got almost $30,000 in contractual services. What are those for?
And that's no. Good, yeah, I just wanted to, that was Norman Brown. that asked that question.
So it's shifted. In prior years, it was under contractual services, but it's moved to contractual medical services, and that is medical examiner. So we contract with a medical examiner to provide those services, and then Liz DeVisser is our mediological.
I remember now. Yes, yes.
And did I understand correctly that you said that she's working 40 hours a week?
Well, she's compensated for 40 hours a week. And she certainly works that, but she is in a position. And we allow her flexibility.
But I mean, I guess I didn't expect her to.
Oh, so the medical legal death investigator, Liz, is 40 hours a week, but Dr. Hughes, who is the medical contract with, she's probably 10.
No, but going back to the 40-hour person. Do we have that much paperwork? Is that what it's about with all deaths? And this is, I assume this is not just law enforcement related deaths,
It's
but
all
in
deaths.
general, it's all
Yes.
death.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Why isn't that like in the public health department?
Well, it's actually by statute, the relationship is usually with the district attorney's office.
Oh,
Yeah, and so this used to be part of the district attorney's budget. But when we brought Liz on, there was a number of factors, including limited space and no opportunity to give Liz an office, that we just kind of adopted her with the Abrams agreement.
Sheriff, can you kind of in a general way describe the financial impacts to the county of having the new jail as opposed to the old jail?
Sure, it's more expensive. It's a lot more expensive. I think that our medical budget is close to $1 million more. Now that's what we budgeted. We have not spent that. This year we were way under. And then also the additional staffing.
Are there financial benefits as well as additional expenses? I mean, we have more up-to-date facilities. We have the ability to manage adults in custody in a better way. Is that?
Yeah, so I think that we're better able to work with the needs of the courts, community corrections. We've built an environment where we can provide more services. For example, since we've moved in, we've started a medication assisted treatment program. So anyone with substance abuse disorder now is screened at intake. If they're opiate user, what's called COWS assessment. We'll give all syndrome assessment and then medical staff to figure out how to treat them so that they don't become very, very ill or worse than their current condition. And then we work with classic behavioral care to start medication assisted treatment. We also have a process so that we can plan their release with CBH so that there's no interruption in their care.
Any other questions, any specific questions regarding line items? Yes, Mr. King.
I saw 2 nurses being added to
Yes.
that, correct? Why are they not under the health department? Why are they under sheriff's department?
I think it's just easier to have a jail medical budget
Okay,
so that we can track what's going on in the corrections.
I was just curious. Thank you.
because one of the biggest expansions that happened in the jail was the clinic. I mean, that was one of the, that's something that I think that you'd be very proud of, that we did that.
And your budget for new vehicles is separate, is that correct?
Yes, all capital projects are budgeted out of, that are general fund related, are budgeted out of the special projects fund.
Since we have you here, are you satisfied that the budget for new vehicles for this coming year is sufficient?
Yes.
Great. Any other questions for our sheriff? Online? In-house? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. Holistic treatment.
So, sorry, just in regards to the remainder of the public safety and justice, Dawn and I'll give you an overall summary of it, and then we have additions.
What page?
It's 169.
So as both the DA and the sheriff mentioned, the public safety and justice functional area as a whole remains relatively status quo. There was some touch on the TE that the sheriff mentioned regarding animal control, but overall in this functional area, the TE is only increasing by 0.9. And those aren't any new positions per se, it's just increasing existing part-time employees FTE for a total of 0.9. And 0.33 of that is in the juvenile department. Some of that occurred in the 22-23 fiscal year. And so we're just asking that the board approve it moving forward in 23-24. And that is offset by state funding for program services. The other one is, the DA has a very minuscule increase in the child support budget of 0.06. And that is again for an existing FTE. So we're not 0.06 of a person, to help provide administrative support in the child support division. And then the extension for the animal control division to help increase the full-time kennel FTE to be able to provide kennel support. Though there isn't an increase in FTE, there is an increase in personnel costs in the emergency management budget. And this is in response to the board's goals to just be able to be better prepared in the event of a natural disaster. And so Director Gibbs would be training temporary emergency workers. So that way, if some sort of natural disaster does happen, he has trained staff who would be able to come in and provide that support. And so that is really the general overall budget for the functional area budgets for public safety and justice. And so we're happy to answer any questions.
Yay for additional training.
Yay for more prepared.
I'm just curious what, like, the training will they be receiving?
Justin can speak to that, but I believe it's the ICS training.
Awesome.
And what I will say is that there's a difference between like larger counties and smaller counties when it comes to emergency management function. Oftentimes with the large counties, you train internal staff to go into the EOC because you have enough staff bench strength that you train people from the sheriff's office, from public works, from all over the organization. We don't have that luxury here. So these additional temporary positions are really to train those folks when something bad happens, who can go in. We're staffed so leanly that every department's going to have their own functions that they're going to have to be addressing during an emergency. And so what sometimes gets short-shrifted in the small counties is the EOC function. And what we've learned is that is not where you can have a weakness in an emergency. And so that's why we are doing that. It's just a practical issue of having expertise that can go into the EOC and help us and help the cities and special districts get through an event. So
It also helps everyone speak the same language during an event.
absolutely.
So it's very good.
And I was a little confused about this because I wasn't clear about who these folks would be recruited from. I mean, are these just citizens we're asking for? Okay.
So yes, partially. I mean, I think there are probably people within the community that have worked for ODF or other organizations where they've gotten the background requisite training that we could potentially verify that training and hire them on to help us in a temporary on-call basis. And the way that I budgeted this, we have a position that's called a disaster assistance worker. We would basically post like an evergreen job posting for different like section chief positions or command staff within the Emergency Operations Center. There would be at least, you know, an annual required exercise or training that that's mandatory that they have to attend. So we know they're exercising their capabilities. And then on top of that, usually jurisdictions are required to be prepared for the first 72 hours of any disaster. So that funding would allow us to fully staff the EOC in our command and general staff positions for that 72 hours if we had to operate on a 24-hour basis.
Right, and these would be paid staff diplomas.
Yes, yeah, because of the level of training that's required. I mean, it's highly specialized training, and we want to make sure that they're staying up to date. And I think that next year, the state will be releasing a credentialing program for people to be credentialed to work in an emergency operations center. So the training that would be provided to these folks would be to a level that they could probably go and function on other disasters. And so it would be a valuable program.
No, it sounds wonderful. That really, and is there going to be some kind of a system down to the CERT level? I mean, how do?
Yes, so we definitely want to continue to sustain and grow the CERT program within the cities. I think another change is reclassifying our staff position to an emergency management coordinator. And basically that sets up our office to where we have programmatic vision and then a staff position to actually implement the programs and maintain the programs. So that position would be working very closely with the CERT leaders to engage them in our emergency management program and to support and sustain their programs.
Are there examples, or I mean, the CERT system is something I just so believe in.
Mm-hmm.
But in rural areas, is there an equivalent? Is there I mean, I know that in rural areas, people actually often naturally create certain type of systems because they know each other and they know each other's staff and what they have in their barn and all those things. But is there any kind of a model for certain types assemblages of people in rural areas?
Yeah, I mean, where I came from in North Carolina, there were some very robust CERT programs in rural communities right next door to the jurisdiction that I serve. I think the main thing with supporting those programs and sustaining them is just making sure that they're engaged in some capacity. And you know, we'll work with their supporting agencies to ensure that we can integrate them and keep them going. I think that was the biggest thing that I saw in my past experience, is just making sure that they stay engaged. And I think developing, you know, a vision for how we'll do that is going to be important going forward.
Could I offer a comment, since I continue as a CERT and a Medical Reserve Corps member? The city of Cannon Beach has extended its CERT participation and its Medical Reserve Corps participation to include all of the Cannon Beach Rural Fire Protection District, which covers from the seaside boundary all the way down past the Tillamook County line. So it actually exists and has existed in the county now. I know you know that, but it's live and well. Sometime I'll wear my t-shirt and bring my bag. Let's see.
Thank you. I am assuming that when you talk about emergencies, you are mainly thinking of natural disasters of one sort or another. Are there any other types of emergencies that you're concerned about and that we may not have enough staffing or enough resources to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, an example right now, Curry County has their EOC activated for a cyber incident. Their, government essentially, has been disrupted because of a cyber attack that has frozen their access to all of their resources and documents. So, I mean, there are other threats that are posed to local governments that could result in an activation for sure.
So do we have, since this is the budget committee, do we have, in your opinion, are there other additional resources that we should have available to us in case of those sorts of disasters or anything else?
I think, at least initially, this will get us moving in a positive direction, and it's definitely something that, I would like to evaluate going forward, is developing more preparedness, but for this budget year, I think it moves us in a positive direction as far as building capacity and making sure that we have, you know, the staffing available.
Good. Any other questions online? Anything? If not, we will.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jess. We will move on to public health.
So,
Sorry, that's on page 208.
So the public health budget consists of both mental health aspect as well as the community public health aspect, and is funded mostly through dedicated resources, 98%, which is state and federal grants resources as well as fee revenues. 2% through a transfer of discretionary jobs to dollars. Overall functional area is seeing an increase in expenditures of approximately $1.1 million from the current year. And the majority of this increase is $570,000, which is funding for mental health services, specifically early assessment and support, also called ESA, which is transitional coordinated specialty care program serving young individuals between the ages of 12 and 27 who experience symptoms consistent with a diagnosable psychotic disorder. And then they work specifically with other mental health services for young adults in transition. The other portion of that is going towards startup community mental health services, and this is to begin expand through community mental health services. There's also an increase in revenue for the drug and alcohol prevention program, and that is associated with the national opioid settlement funds that the county is receiving. And this is to be used for increased community outreach, engagement, and data collection. There's an increase in revenue in tobacco prevention, and this is in relation to Measure 108, which instituted a tax on e-cigarettes and other nicotine inhalants that's to be distributed back into the counties to focus on community-based initiatives around tobacco prevention, cessation, and health equity. There's also increase, this will be coming before the board in June, but the Environmental Health Department is also increasing their fees. This isn't necessarily seen an overall increase in their revenues, but it is decreasing or eliminating actually the general fund support because environmental health is a fee-for-service program. They're doing the inspections on restaurants, lodging, and so really it's the business that should be paying for the fee. And so those revenues will be coming before your board and increase. The proposed budget for this grouping is based on estimates of available grant monies and their estimated beginning fund balances. As I think it was the DA who mentioned, the state has, they don't give us our budgets until we're in this process here, about to adopt ours. And then the federal government is a couple months after our fiscal year. So oftentimes you'll see budget adjustments that come through because of all of the different that happen to the budget for these purposes. Is there any specific questions on any of the public health function area budgets?
Question from the commission.
Yeah, Commissioner Van.
Is this a typo? The 3,711,000% increase?
What page are you on?
Page 209.
I'm
Pretty
sure
sure
they did.
it's like-
Is not calculating for us. Thank you.
And then my actual question was the school-based health center, PE for, was that a one-time funding in 2020?
Sorry,
It's on page 2 of it.
same thing. Oh,
No, it's not NAPA.
and no, it's the Jewel School-Based Health Center. And so actually what that was, yes, it was startup funding. And then it took a while for the program to actually get up and running. And so it was carried over.
Okay, so is
From
it being
then.
funded by the school then? And
No, at this point in time, we are still providing funding that for this fiscal year, we are proposing using ARPA funding, which is what we also did in the 22-23 fiscal year to support it. Jin Chang and his team is working very closely to try and make it a self-sustaining program, and they're working with the state and helping that.
oh, so it's not going to be a long-term situation where
Very justified, Dual is, at least as long as the timber revenue pulled out, is a large revenue stream. Surprised that the county subsidy.
Yeah, it's to focus on the fact that many of the residents out there don't have the resources to come into the city doctors' hospitals. So being able to provide a resource for them out there. It was originally a pilot program with the state to offer these services. And so the intention is that right now it is just for the students. And the intention is if it does work well, then they would be able to bill insurance and be able to see residents of the Jewel area.
If I could just add as the commissioner for that, area, well, just because there's timber revenue at this moment to support the educational offerings doesn't translate to community well-being in terms of the actual level of financial support that the members of that community have.
Jin Chang would like to comment.
Yeah, there's a reason is a very from Paul. Mr. Jim.
Can you, we want to make sure you're.
Yeah.
Here, you have to talk to them.
Yeah, I'm the director of public health, and I want to add one more comment here is really, this is not a subsidized, because from health equity perspective, and we have apparently different coverage and a different disease burden there. That's why we move forcefully, try to build a health, school-based health center there, not just to help the student population. Eventually, we hope to help local community members.
Okay.
It's a health equity perspective. Thank you.
And we actually, this board, the previous board, made a commitment back in 4 years ago to move forward with looking at all of the school-based facilities that were available for us to increase clinical capacity in those areas, because in our rural areas, the schools are one of the few public entities that you could augment. And so it was our health director then was very, very interested in making sure that we were increasing capacities and felt that it was a good investment for the county to make in those.
I'm glad for that clarification.
I just want to stick a red flag in this topic because of the IPs and the AOP that came out in regards to our forestry funding. Jewel School District is not part of the stabilization fund for schools. And so they will be completely defunded because there will not be harvest there. And so that is their primary source of funding in order to provide for these students. And so the red flag being that this topic is going to come up with the board again when they're not going to be able to fund themselves, the school-based health center, or anything else attached to the Jewel School District. So just red flag, make a note in the minutes.
Roser, If I'm not jumping ahead, just a quick question on page 217. I noticed in the tobacco prevention program, we're increasing our contractual services by 34,000. And I was wondering why that big of a jump.
Yeah, so this is in relation to the Measure 108 funding and reaching out into the community in regards to the prevention and cessation and equity programs that they'll be working on.
And from public health perspective, and the tobacco use is the most preventable deaths and the diseases. So this is a heavy burden to the community. I know overall, over past 10, 15 years, overall smoking rate is reduced, but still for our community, still it's a burden. And most of our community put words there and like premature deaths before 75 years. And we lost mostly from cancer, especially tobacco related cancer.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. I have a question on page 239. And let me just state personal skepticism about the program of sort of trying to reach business owners and just ordinary people to deal with overdose crises. And I am wondering, this naloxone at the bottom of page 239, we say participants report 45 overdose reversals. How many of those are from those reversals were initiated by professionals, and how many were there any of them? How many of them were by just ordinary people?
These are 45, I believe, mostly they are by ordinary people. And overdose, this overall situation is, yes, we saw increase the overdose and the severity increased, but the data is lacking. And many agencies involved there, and they use naloxone to reverse the life, but not necessarily report to public health, medical entity, or law enforcement. So data is lacking. But I wanted to say, because we actively reach out to substance use disorder individuals, and we distributed naloxone, and this is helpful for save life.
Commissioner Brandon.
So just to piggyback the topic that you brought up, it's not really as much budgetary related, but I know that in the Middle Willamette Valley, there has been a new drug that has hit the market that naloxone won't help reverse. And I was just curious if public health had a finger on how to assist, because with everything, you know, it's going to reach us here in Clatsop County at some point.
Yeah.
And so is there, since you're here, is there any news or anything you can share?
It's not new news, and we're looking for working with other agencies and collaboratively address drug user issues. Just like yes, I want to take this opportunity to say, really, COVID brought the public health, healthcare, social services together, and our goal is really keep this collaboration, partnership momentum carry on. And COVID emergency is over tomorrow, but still our work to promote overall community health will never stop, and we need to use this collaboration and move things forward.
I really appreciate that perspective. I'm sorry. It's a glass half full perspective regarding COVID, and it has hit our communities in, you know, Zoom meetings and in public education and so on and so forth. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the public health? We are at 1 minute to 6. Have we covered as much ground as you would hope?
We did a good job. And so 3 functional areas remaining for us to review on Wednesday, the 17th, which will return to all.
All virtual.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good job, Chair.
Okay. Great. Meeting, yeah.
I want to be sure.
Oh, wait a minute, where's my budget?
I think it's sitting right over on the.
It got, here, I'll grab it.
Hey, beat me.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Notice none of us jumped up at all, so sorry about that.
Yeah. That's right.
She's the nimble one.
Youngest in the room.
A couple here that have got to be younger than me.
Hey, I need another plate of food.
Yeah. No.
All right. Ah, nice, nice.
From for not going to the public health open house.
Okay. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the county local contract review board is now meeting in regular session, all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Clerk of the Board, can we have the roll call?
Chair Quila,
Here?
Vice Chair Banks. Here. Commissioner Toyoka.
I think Commissioner Toyoka had to leave.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Webb. Here. And Commissioner Thompson.
I'm here.
Okay. We've all had an opportunity to review the agenda. Any comments, questions on the agenda, or do we have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. First item is a proclamation for Emergency Medical Services Week. And Tom Strecker, the paramedic general manager of for Medics Ambulance Service is here. Tom, welcome.
To repeat, my name is Tom Strecker. I'm the general manager for Medics Ambulance Service, which we are very proud to have been the advanced life support emergency medical services provider for Clatsop County since 1975. Just a year before that, President Gerald Ford authorized EMS Week to celebrate EMS practitioners and the important work they do in our nation's communities. Back then, EMS was a new profession, and EMS practitioners had only just started to be recognized as a critical component of emergency medicine and the public health safety net. Today, we could not imagine not having the ability to call 911 and have well-trained medical personnel rush to our aid. The 2023 EMS Week theme is EMS, where emergency care begins. This theme is particularly meaningful now to remind people that every day we are faced with so many new challenges in our lives, and yet we still rise above them all and continue to respond, support, and care for the needs of our community. Now more than ever, it is important to remember that a major component of EMS Week is honoring and celebrating our EMS professionals who are supporting the health and well-being of our community.
Thank you very much, Tom. Well said. We really do appreciate the great work that you do and the dedicated people that work within Medics. Any other comments, questions?
I move to approve the resolution and order proclaiming May 21st, 2023 through May 27th, 2023 as Emergency Medical Services Week and authorize the chair to read and sign the proclamation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming May 21st, 2023 through May 27th, 2023 as Emergency Medical Services Week and authorize the chair to sign, then read the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming May 21st, 2023 through May 27th, 2023 to be Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical services are a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas the emergency medical service system consists of emergency physicians, emergency nurses, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, and others. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. Now therefore, be it hereby resolved, the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim May 21st, 2023 through May 27th, 2023 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Clatsop County, and we invite all community members to observe this year's theme, EMS, where emergency care begins, with appropriate ceremonies and activities, dated this 10th day of May, 2023. Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you.
Next, we have another proclamation for National Maritime Day, and Jeff Smith, curator for Columbia River Maritime Museum. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. I just have a few comments to stress the importance of this proclamation and give it a little bit of context or background. So if you'll bear with me. Those of you in the room that are of my generation may recognize this first quote that I wanted to share. We are tied to the ocean, and when we go back to the sea, whether it is to sail or to watch, we are going back from whence we came. That was John F. Kennedy. Another one I wanted to share with you is, with every drop of water you drink, every breath you take, you're connected to the sea, no matter where you live on Earth. And that was renowned oceanographer and biologist, Dr. Sylvia Earle. I'd like to throw a few facts and numbers at you. If you don't mind, I will keep it brief. Looking at this from a global perspective, at a distance of 1 million miles, our planet looks like this small blue marble. Over 70% of the planet's surface is covered by water. Author Arthur C. Clarke once suggested that it should be called ocean rather than Earth. Half of the oxygen on the planet is courtesy of the sea. Another way to think about it is that every other breath you take is because of the oceans. When searching for evidence of life on other planets, scientists are looking for evidence of water because they know how critical water is in creating and supporting life. From a human perspective, each of us was formed in water. First 9 months of our existence, we were enveloped in water. Over half of our bodies are comprised of water. Our brains are 80% water. We can survive without food longer than we can without water. We are water beings connected to each other by water. We go to the beach to unwind, relax. We spend a day on the lake to refresh, or the river. We as a species are drawn to the water for healing and renewal. Water sustains us. And lastly, from a cultural perspective, on a societal level, 80% of the world's population lives within 60 miles of water. Over 500 million people owe their livelihoods directly to water. 2/3 of the global economy is derived from activities that involve water. 90% of all goods and commodities are transported by ship, barge, or boat over water. Before highways and roads were built, rivers and canals connected us. Do still to a degree. Water is what connects us. A relatively new field of science involving neuroscience, psychology, biology, and physiology is looking at why being near, in, on, or underwater can make us happier, healthier, more connected, and better at what we do. The ongoing research is promising. That being the case, we are in a unique position here in Clatsop County. Nowhere else in the state will you find a county that has a river and an ocean on 2 of its boundaries. We are fortunate to have the Great Columbia River to our north and the mighty Pacific Ocean to the west. More than any other county in the state, it is fitting that we recognize our opportunities and responsibilities concerning access to water and waterborne commerce. by proclaiming May 22nd, 2023, a National Maritime Day.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for that message. And I think we all appreciate what an asset the Columbia River Maritime Museum is in the community. Any comments, questions? Mr. Thompson?
I want to stand up and clap. That was the most beautiful piece of science-infused poetry I've heard in a very long time. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to say something, but you've made me cry.
I'm obviously having trouble.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming May 22nd, 2023 as National Maritime Day and authorize the chair and read and sign the proclamation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming May 22nd, 2023 as National Maritime Day and authorize the chair to read and sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming May 22nd, 2023 to be National Maritime Day. Whereas Clatsop County borders the Pacific Ocean to the west and Columbia River to the north. And whereas Clatsop County's maritime history and heritage are an integral part of our identity. And whereas these waters and shores are home to indigenous people with a rich maritime culture and traditions long before the first Europeans arrived. And whereas the Columbia River Bar is the gateway to a maritime transportation system which carries over 56 million tons of international trade with a cargo value of at least $23 billion. And whereas the Port of Astoria is a critical economic driver serving the cruise ship, commercial fishing, and seafood processing, recreational boating, tourism, and other industries of benefit to the entire county. And whereas the U.S. Coast Guard home ports the cutters Alert, Steadfast, and the Elm, aids to Navigation Team Astoria and Sector Columbia River in our county. And whereas the Columbia River Maritime Museum in Astoria exposes over 115,000 visitors annually to our rich maritime heritage. And whereas commercial fishing accounts for over 13% of earned income in Clatsop County and supports a significant number of related industries. And whereas boat building and repair are key growing local industries requiring skilled blue-collar workers, and whereas the Department of Labor Tongue Point Job Corps Center Seamanship Program and Clatsop Community College Maritime Science Program provide professional training for critical maritime jobs. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim May 22nd, 2023 as National Maritime Day in Clatsop County, and we invite community members to observe this day and celebrate with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities dated this 10th day of May, 2023. Thank you, Jay.
Beautiful.
That was. And next, we have the Provider Appreciation Day proclamation, and Kristen Freund, who's the program director for the Clatsop Child Care Retention and Expansion Program, is here. I see that Jack Bello, Child Care Resource and Referral, is also on virtually. But welcome, Kristen. I'm so glad that we get to meet you.
Actually in person.
In
Thank you
person,
so
exactly. And you're taking over from Dan Gaffney, who was the interim program director, and we're glad to have you aboard and leading this very essential program in the county.
Thank you for having me and shining light on this important issue. Clatsop County is a childcare desert, as many of you all know, which means that there is one slot for every 3 children seeking childcare. And even if you don't have kids, this really impacts you on so many levels within our community and the thousands of people who visit. And just want to take a moment to show my appreciation for all the providers who are providing care for our youngest citizens day in and day out. They're not doing it for money. They are doing it because it is truly a service and a labor of love that is a cornerstone of our community and every community. And it's an outstanding investment to invest within our youth. And it doesn't just stop at the early stages of their life. It continues on. And there's so many benefits to just having quality, sustained, affordable childcare for our families. And want to just, again, thank you so much for, shining light on this and spreading awareness of the importance of stable childcare within our community and how it impacts not only our families, but our businesses and our economy. And thank you so much. I don't have a beautiful poem tied into science, but I do want to just say thank you for this opportunity and for spreading the word beyond this room within our community.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. And we're fortunate to have your leadership in continuing this program and this essential service within Clatsop County. Any other comments, questions?
I just
Mr.
have a
Banks?
comment. So before I became a commissioner, this was actually one of my topics. January 2020, I walked into county management. Well, I didn't walk. It was a phone call because we weren't allowed to see each other because it was 2020. Well, no.
No, not in January. Right before.
Oh, I just remember this was a topic, I know, it was a topic of conversation, and I had 3 topics, and childcare was number 1 on that list, and then rural recycling, we're still working on that, was second on my list. And this, having had to quit my job because of having too many children, I guess, this was near and dear to my heart because I don't want any other woman to be in my position of having to quit something that they absolutely love and adore in order to take care of their family. And so for me, providing more people for those families so that they don't have to quit something that they adore to sustain quality care, a safe space for their kids. So this is near and dear. And so one of the things, glass half full, COVID brought us a light shining on this issue. And it brought us ARPA funding. And without that ARPA funding, we would not be here having this discussion with you and hopefully solving, what I consider community problems. So I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me share.
Your kids are lucky to have you.
Mr. Chair, could I?
Yes.
Can't help it. I started working on this.
Before me, but she passed it to me when she
I passed
realized.
it. No, but I'm telling you. So I worked on this in the state of Michigan before I went back to graduate school. That was 1971. In 1980 in Alaska, I too had to quit my job because I could neither find childcare nor bring my child to the office. So when Jennifer Purcell came to me and said, do you want to be involved with this? Well, absolutely. I mean, I think we all have the profound knowledge from personal loss and personal commitment, both to our children and to our community, not to give up and to continue to care for our children as we work to find ways to support their healthy development and contribute our gifts to our community. Thank you for being our water carrier
It is
as
an
this goes
honor.
forward.
Yeah, thank you for those comments, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Thompson, do we have a motion?
I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming May 10th, 2023 as Provider Appreciation Day and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming May 10th, 2023 as Provider Appreciation Day and authorize the chair to read and sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming May 10th, 2023 to be Provider Appreciation Day. Whereas organizations nationwide are recognizing child care providers on this day. And whereas child care provides a safe, nurturing place for the enrichment and development of millions of children nationwide, and it's a vital force in our economy. And whereas the pandemic illuminated how indispensable child care providers are for the well-being and economic security of Oregon's young children, families, and communities. Whereas child care programs, which are mostly small businesses, run and staffed predominantly by women, are still recovering from health and financial hardships stemming from the pandemic, while they have continued to meet the needs of families. And whereas Clatsop County and the state of Oregon recognize that child care has been a lifeline for families, communities, and the economy, and as such, provided much-needed support to providers to help sustain the viability of childcare by creating the Clatsop County Child Care Expansion and Retention Grant Program, increasing investments in agencies that support the recruitment and retention of high-quality childcare options for families, and improving access to programs that support young families. Whereas our future depends on the quality of the early childhood experiences provided to young children today, support for high-quality childcare represents a worthy commitment to our children's future. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim May 10th, 2023 as Provider Appreciation Day in Clatsop County, and invites all community members to join in this observance of Provider Appreciation Day by recognizing child care providers for their important work, dated this 10th day of May, 2023. Thank you so much, Kristen. Thank you for being here.
Thanks. I don't know.
Thank you, Jeff.
No.
Commissioner Bay. We'll move on to business from the public. Individuals wishing to provide oral communications as the designated time. At this designated time, must register in advance by calling, and I do have one person that has signed up, Rick Bowers. Rick, if you can come up and name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Rick Bowers, 357 Commercial Street here in Astoria. In the late 1960s, I lived in Denver, Colorado. There was a downtown street named Larimer, also called Skid Row. There were 57 flop houses. A renewal project was approved by voters in 1967. Today, it's a tourist destination. We removed flop houses, sometimes called SROs, along with boarding houses all across the country. Where have all those people gone? That's what I want to point to today, systemic changes and the unintended consequences of many decisions. Another example. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy signed a bill meant to free many thousands of Americans with mental illnesses from life in institutions. It envisioned building 1,500 outpatient mental health centers to offer them community-based care instead. Most were never built. Meanwhile, many state hospitals were closed. In many cases, that has left nowhere for the sickest people to turn, so they end up homeless, abusing substances, or in prison. Now on to the systemic impact of zoning. The handout shows an aerial view of Community First Village outside the city limits of Austin, Texas. This is a project of a social outreach ministry focusing on homelessness. They purchased 51 acres, created 100 RV homes, 130 micro homes, and many, many community resources. The creators said building the village was possible because in Texas, county land has no zoning. The nonprofit did not have to deal with conditional use permits, NIMBYs, appeals, or LUBA. My point, the current situation regarding homelessness is the result of countless systemic policy decisions that have taken decades to manifest the current unintended consequence.
Thank you very much, Rick. Right, perfect timing, too.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you very much.
Make a comment?
Commissioner Banks.
I really appreciate your presentations that you bring to us. And I do have to Google what a flop house is now. But but I do appreciate all of the information you bring, and I never would have realized that other states, how they function. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Thank you, Rick. We don't have anybody signed up.
No, we do not.
Otherwise, is there anybody joining us virtually that would like to participate in public comment? Okay. Go ahead and close public comment and go right to the consent calendar. We have 4 items on the consent calendar. People have had an opportunity to review the calendar. Any questions, comments? Or do we have a motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Commissioner liaison reports. We'll start with Commissioner Thompson.
Oh, Lordy. You know, this is so touching tonight because I was yesterday, I got a bunch of stuff to talk about. I will try and condense it. Yesterday, I was in Cannon Beach, and that beloved David Reed was so helpful to two community activists from Tillamook County, Julie Chick and Laura Swanson, because they brought in a nationally known speaker to talk about disability awareness. So here is a middle-aged black man. If I were to apply a diagnosis visually, I'd say looked like cerebral palsy to me. We didn't talk about that. What we talked about in his presentation was disability is a point of view. It's a mental framework. It's what we see. What occurs to me is the phrase that I heard long ago, we are all temporarily abled. We are all temporarily physically and mentally capable. And considering that inevitable decline of whatever duration it is, oh, aren't I just preaching today? I'm sorry, please bear with me. It terrifies us. And so we demonize and exclude people for one reason or another. I'm going to refer to an editorial in the Astorian, and it talked about how the same neighbors, some of them who are behind the repeal of the short-term rental ordinance, are also came to the County Board of Commissioners and spoke against childcare. You will recall that. So who's welcome in our community? To whom are our communities accessible? Do we welcome potential new neighbors? Do we welcome potential new friends? I hope that we can do that in a bunch of reciprocal good neighbor, not just agreements, but I'm talking hearts and souls and bodies and minds. Okay. So I am, speaking of Dan Gaffney, I have the pleasure of working with Dan Gaffney and Andrew Mattingly from Craft 3 because there's this little scholarship that's restricted to Clatsop County students. The selection criteria, not so much academic. Some activities, here's the personal qualities, and I'm going to read these. I'm going to try not to cry. Ability to overcome obstacles, character, compassion, empathy, desire to learn, diligence, work ethic, leadership, self-motivation, self-reliance, older student or attending college after a long absence, first-generation college attendee. For applicant pool, cut first by first-gen status and then remaining need. We've got 20 applications that we are reading. If you have a heart like mine, you will weep to read the stories of the challenges and the resilience of these young students and what they have done and how do we support it. We've got, it's less than $6,000. I mean, it just makes me want to stop doing everything else and fundraise to help send these youth to college because they long to go and they need our support. Yesterday, before the presentation, bless you, on awareness of our ableist disability bias, I had a conversation with a young woman from Nehalem who spoke to me about her grief and her terror for herself and her community in regard to housing, employment, childcare, and food. Now, I began to weep. She wanted to comfort me. I said, no. I say I am a compassionate leader. That means I suffer with you. So when I hear people talking about Clatsop County has money, and we can spend on our reserves, and we don't have to worry because there will be jobs at $80,000 a year and more of them. When I don't see data that support that, and I see and hear and feel people around me who experience something dramatically different than that, who live in grief and terror because they don't have a stable economic system. They don't have affordable housing. They don't have childcare. They're not sure about food, or on and on and on. So that motivates me, colleagues, to go to the Association of Oregon Counties. I can tell you about my committee reports. I'm trying to get us more money for AOC. I'm trying to get us more money for adequately funded highway system and for highway safety. But day in, day out, the health and well-being of everybody in this place, and the healing of the people and the place. That, for me, I think is our first order of business. So I hope we can focus on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Banks.
I will start with attending the child care. What have we decided to label that? Child care task force? It's a mouthful. Child care task force, yeah. We were discussing our June meetings and discussing budget and what our plans are moving forward for the grant program, and the focus still remains on, the majority of us, I sense, is going to be interested in focusing on the 0 to 3 gap here in the coming future. But also there was a lot of discussion regarding the current providers that we provided grants for, and just being cognizant that they will need continued support via either continued education or continued just community, I think is the best thing, knowing that they're not alone and they're continuing to learn how to further grow their programs. So overall, I'm very looking forward to the in-person meeting in June. Hopefully, world problems can be solved, or community problems. Then we had a Fair Board meeting. I was unable to attend, but rave reviews from a number of the Fair Board members regarding the work session that they attended with a number of the entities that all kind of coexist at Fair during Fair Week. And so I feel like there's a lot of progress being made. I feel like confidence is growing, and people are becoming more comfortable. We have new board members, we have a new fairground manager, but I feel like people's hearts and just so on, and so everybody's, I think, coming together and creating some good, positive working relationships. So I'm very excited for what Fair has, and I'm throwing some prayers up for our fairground manager, because it's coming up fast. So hopefully you get some good sleep between now and then, because it's coming in hot. Then moving on to my next adventure, I still need to get glasses. Sorry. I was able to do public comment for SB, I can't see my letters, they're too small. SB something or other. It was Amanda. SB, there it is. Oh. Anybody else remember? What was Amanda, do you remember which one she? Capital projects for Westport, the Westport area. It was eye-opening. It was at the Ways and Means, and the number of people that were testifying, they had waiting were over 300. Waiting for funding from the state. So it was just eye-opening, I think, to have that many people out there requesting funding support from the state for a variety of reasons. And, you know, I obviously think that the capital projects funding is by far the most important, but obviously we will have to wait and see what Ways and Means thoughts are regarding that. And then lovely Cinco de Mayo. I had a lot of tacos. And then
Looks like next up on my adventure is another FTLAC meeting and a budget meeting for Northwest Senior and Disability Services. So the budget process continues, and obviously the Habitat Conservation Plan discussion continues also. So yeah, that's where we're at. There's a lot of no change occurring with those topics, so.
Lots going on.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Webb?
I have nothing.
Okay. And I don't have anything. County Manager?
Colpack and Northwest Actor tomorrow, and then tomorrow night at 6 o'clock in Seaside, Oregon, Kitchen Table is having a meeting, with talking about water, input on water stuff.
Yep.
Thank you. And how about you?
I was passing on my comments.
A note on Colpack and their efforts to support our childcare. We have an umbrella, and that is Colpack, that is running, we run our funding through for this childcare task force.
Yeah.
And so just a head nod to them and them opening up their nonprofit status, basically, so that we could operate the childcare task force through them. So, high five.
Okay, County Manager?
Just making sure everybody was done, so. No, okay. So Chuck Whalen, members of the board, just want to share a little bit about education campaign that's going on during the month of May, which is wildfire prevention. It's a collaboration between Clatsop County and the Fire Defense Board, and so there'll be a number of activities that Patty Jo and her team, Justin from Emergency Management, and others have been working on. Obviously, it's an important topic as we get into the summer season, and now is a good time to think about prevention for the wildfires. Another thing I want to thank Gail and the planning staff for all their work that culminated in the Planning Commission approving the comprehensive plan document. It's been a long road, and staff has shown great resilience and stamina as we've gone through that, as have the board, as have the citizen committees. And I think at the end of it, we're going to have a good product that we can all see as a foundation going forward. So I think that that's great. And then the last is just noting that next Tuesday is Election Day. Our county clerk staff is working hard as usual during these election periods, and they'll have a host of volunteers or paid election workers that will be with them. So we'll be going through that certification process after the election for about a month. So I just want to recognize them. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager. We'll go to the business agenda. We have one item on the business agenda, which is the architecture firm contract approval on page 51. Dave is here to present on that.
Evening, Commissioners. I didn't think you'd get to me so fast, so something you were there. This is a culmination of several projects. We did the strategic facility plan, which you reviewed and went through, and then it was presented in January. And this is, an architectural firm that's going to help us transform, public health, give them more room in the 800-820 building, and then also work on the building that we have vacant over there that was the previous jail building. And so it's going to be, a pretty big transformation for where departments are. I think similar to a couple past projects, when we remodeled the courthouse, we had to remove the clerk's office over to 820. We had to move assessment and tax. The only department we left in the courthouse was the district attorney's office. So people moved all around, and some other departments weren't very happy because they were used to being in the courthouse, and so. But it all turned out better. And also, I was thinking about even like this building. When we remodeled this building, the health department had been in this building since 1948 until 2002 when we remodeled 820 after the county purchased that. And then we remodeled this building, and this was 8-foot ceilings, exam rooms, none of this, filigree work up above was really intact. The windows were these old aluminum windows, so buildings can get transformed and be better. So this is a contract to do the design work. We have budgeted some of this work, you know, the physical part of it in next year's budget. It'll probably be ongoing past that fiscal year, but we're gonna get started on it. And so if you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions for David?
I do.
Yeah, Commissioner Webb.
First of all, I'd like to thank our county manager for taking me through this report because I had lots of questions about things I didn't know. I do have a question about what is the total square footage of the Duane Street Annex?
What we're calling it.
Believe that. I mean,
I don't know if I can find that in the report, but I
you
think
don't know it
it's,
off the top of your head, Dave?
I think it's around 19,000 square feet, something like that.
Really, that sounds low, actually.
It might
Okay.
be.
Okay, so, yeah. And how much of that, have we told Sarah how many square feet of that we want to use?
We've told them we want to use it all. I mean, eventually, because the building's unused.
Ultimately, right, but they have a mandate according to the scope of work. So what are we looking at?
I think that, I mean, Commissioner Webb, I think we're still in the process of really fully vetting what the ultimate use of the facility will be. We've identified where the needs are, so we know what the needs are, and we know what the total square footage of our existing buildings are, and part of that is we know where some of the inefficiencies are within our existing buildings, and so, I mean, I think to David's point, you know, we probably will be using the entire building, but.
Do you think this exercise will do that?
I mean, I think we will have a plan for the use of the entire building, whether we do the build-out and the tenant improvements for the use. I think that is up in the air. I think, you know, like many of these kind of tenant improvement projects, there's kind of phases that we'll be going through. And so one of the initial phases, besides just dealing with some of the inefficiencies and some of the wasted space that we have within any building, is to use the Duane Street Annex, AKA the old jail, to then provide a space relief for those highly compressed functions that are sitting within the 800 and the 820 buildings. So that'll be one of the first phases will be to develop the plan, do the TIs that will allow relief in the other buildings. And so, but whether that's going to consume the entire building, probably not. And there'll be another phase and a plan for how that might be used. So
I guess I'm a little concerned that we didn't at the very beginning hire somebody like Sarah to say, take a look at this building and tell us what you think the best use would be for it. I mean, I tried to talk Mac Burns into opening a film museum there, but he has other plans.
I think,
so,
well,
you know.
I'll just share my perspective on it, and that's that the county space needs are what I would term severe at this point. And what I do know is that we had Sarah look at a lot of different options, and some of those options were to construct new buildings. And there is not a financial carrying capacity for the county to pursue new buildings. And so we quickly, you know, transition to a discussion of how do we use the existing assets that are in the downtown core to meet the county's immediate and really medium-term needs. And so by looking at that, Sarah does believe that the Duane Street Annex can be used for those office-type purposes, but there may be other purposes like storage and some other things that would still alleviate some of the strain in some of the other buildings. So you may have a building that is multifunctional. There'll be office space, and then there could be other type uses like storage.
Right.
So
and does their project include the public health
clinic that we've all been hoping for so many years?
Well, it includes providing public health the space that they need, and as part of that, giving the clinic portion a little bit more freedom than what they have right now, meaning they are severely constrained.
They really are.
And so that will be part of it, but the public health function right now is really assumed to continue carrying on its mission within the 820 building, but they'll have more room. And it could be certain functions expanded into the 800 building.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. I thought this was really, I was very impressed with how quickly this was going to happen. I mean, I really felt, I guess, is that because of the work that Sarah has already done?
I think it's the work that Sarah's already done, and it's really also just the need. I mean, we had a need yesterday, and so we have to really move judiciously to address some of our constraints, because right now we literally don't have anywhere to put folks, and we have folks that are in substandard space.
Yeah, oh,
So.
God, yeah. Well, and one of the things I just wanted to also mention to David that, you know, you're running here with a whole lot of gas after building our corrections facility, you know, basically under budget and on time. So do I need to make a sign for your office?
You could.
No, but thank you, David. I know you'll do a great job on this.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Any other comments, questions? We ready for a motion?
I move to authorize the county manager to sign the contract with Sarah Design and Architecture, Inc. in the amount of $540,528, and to authorize the county manager to sign amendments up to 25% of this contract amount.
Second. Moved and seconded to authorize the county manager to sign the contract with Sarah Design and Architecture in the amount of $540,528, and to authorize the county manager to sign amendments up to 25% of the contract amount. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. And we don't have any other items on the business agenda. Do we have anything for the good of the order? We'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good rest of your evening.